Judy, we should be there pretty soon.
We're live.
Okay, so welcome to Wednesday, February 17th, Bruderheim Town Council meeting. Would someone be willing to read the acknowledgement?
I can do that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I haven't done this one for a while. We acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting grounds, gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So we'll call this meeting to order. Is there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, Administration has one, 8.3, a reserve transfer for the Bruderheim School Playground.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there any other additions, changes, deletions to the agenda? Haven't heard none. Look for a motion to adopt the agenda then as amended. Thank you, Councillor Pat. Can't hear you. I think she may be muted. Go ahead, Councillor Pat.
She's muted.
I think the lip reading is telling us that she's moving to adopt the agenda as amended, correct? Naudry? Oh, it's still muted, I think.
I think she's not.
The speaker volume's turned down or mic is turned down or something.
Mr. Mayor, maybe somebody else could make the motion while they work out the technical.
Sure. Councillor Judy, you make that motion.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda with additions as presented.
Thank you. Anyone opposed to that motion, please raise their hand. And none opposed, and the motion's carried. So this evening, we're very fortunate. We have our great communications expert, and I don't even know all of Jill's titles anymore, but we're going to have a presentation on Resilient Rural's Regional Resilience Plan. Thank you, Jill. Happy New Year.
Thank
Haven't seen
you
you for a whole year.
Yes, it's been a while. It's great to see everybody's faces. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me to give you this update on Resilient Rurals. I'll be brief, but I'm just going to share my screen. Is that all right, Patty?
Yes. Oh, you're asking technically.
Yeah.
Thought you were just being polite.
That too. There we go. Okay. Everybody can see the screen?
Yep. Jill, if there's any questions, you want them at the end or just as you're going through, or?
It doesn't matter. If there's something pressing while I'm going through, I don't mind being interrupted.
Okay.
Okay, so just as a refresher, Resilient Rurals is a partnership between the towns of Bruderheim, Gibbons, and Lamont for a regional climate change adaptation and resilience project. It's a new approach created by small towns for small towns. That's important to note because much of the work to date on climate change adaptation and resilience has been completed by cities. And there's a lot of really fantastic work being done. However, climate change adaptation and resilience will look very different for small communities like ours. So through our process, we are hoping to create a bit of a model for small communities and share it. So our biggest update is that we have completed a draft regional resilience plan. I'm very excited to share that with you. It is included in the council package, and hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at it. The plan outlines our community's climate priorities, social priorities, and business continuity priorities. The Regional Resilience Plan consists of a handful of smaller plans. The action plan outlines the actions that will support our regional priorities. The communications plan is how we will communicate with our residents, with each other, and internally within our municipalities. The implementation plan is how we will implement the different plan components, and the networking plan is how we will connect with other municipalities and organizations. So because we are hoping to create this new model for smaller communities, we do intend to reach out to other communities, whether it's across Alberta or across Canada, to share what we've learned and also to continue to learn more from others.
Councillor Wayne, do you have a question? I just seen his hand up.
Okay. So as I mentioned, our 3 priority areas for the plan are climate, social, and business continuity priorities. Again, this is a little bit different. Typically, especially with climate adaptation work, the focus is on climate priorities. We wanted to also include social and business continuity priorities to take a more holistic approach, so that we can focus more on the resilience end of things. We defined as a group these priorities based on the work that we did. So the community workshops and interviews, as well as our surveys that we did. So we did those youth and resident and staff surveys. So from all of that information that we gathered, we did come up with these priorities. Our climate priorities include things such as flooding, windstorms, wildfires, those types of things. Social priorities is where we will touch on mental health and public preparedness, as well as support for vulnerable populations. And business continuity touches on those processes in place to ensure we have access to critical files and maps and passwords and those types of things.
Jill, I have a question.
Yeah.
So the plan has like a framework for every municipality to follow, but if they feel they have higher priorities in one area than another, or they want to have their own plan to fit in with that framework, is that how this is going to function, or how do you see that?
Yes, absolutely. So in terms of the model and sharing that with other municipalities, it's more about getting to this step. And yes, it would be very likely quite unique based on the different municipalities that would take the approach.
Okay.
So it would have that flexibility.
Thank you.
So as small communities, we've recognized that communication is going to be one of our most valuable tools in terms of delivering on our priorities. Communication is inexpensive, and it allows us to inform our residents and help them to prepare, as well as to share knowledge with each other and find opportunities to work on in the future. Other actions that are included in the plan, without getting too deep into the action side of it, include things such as workshops, the potential for a public works agreement, some vulnerable population information, so a program tied to that, as well as investigating the possibility of a rural think tank as well. So there's some really interesting actions tied to it.
Jill, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Let's step back to last summer when we had all the flooding that we had throughout the county.
Mm-hmm.
How well did this plan or method fit in with the problem that we had there, as far as resources and help for people that were flooded, insurances and stuff like that? Did this plan help that much with that?
Well, the plan wasn't prepared prior to that, and those are some of the items that we are hoping to provide some information on. So, for example, part of our plan is to inform residents on different insurance options, what to look for, how to prepare their homes, those types of things, so that we're hoping to kind of get out ahead of those events so that we can have information available prior to those things occurring. And that's where we see the communication being really valuable, is having that information available before the things happen. And then, I mean, once we have those communication materials set up, in the event of something like that occurring, then they would be readily available and something that we can distribute easily and quickly.
Was there any documentation taken and research that we can feedback we can rely on for if something like this happened as a result of that flooding?
Yes, yeah, I have personally collected some of the research, and we did chat with Lamont. That was one of the things that they brought to the table was information on flooding. So yes, we are paying attention to those learning opportunities. Did that answer your question? Do you have any more questions?
I had another question, but I don't think it's relevant.
Okay. So our next steps are to, with our partner communities, further define the timelines within the plan so that we can finalize it. We do have some timelines set out in the plan, but we have not committed to them. It is just a draft plan. COVID has paused things a little bit. You know, obviously our priority is the safety of residents and ensuring that we have other municipal services delivered. So we will be revisiting the timelines and committing more specifically to those items and finalizing the plan. This is just draft. There are some communication materials under development right now, though. I'm working on some business continuity information for our businesses and for nonprofits, and some general preparedness stuff as well. So we're starting on those pieces despite not having that finalized plan. So we're trying to get some of that information put together already.
Jill, quick question. So is there any other person from the other partner municipalities that are assisting you going through this?
Yes, yes. So John Nielsen is helping in Lamont and Louise Bowder in Gibbons.
Okay, great.
Yes. Yeah, so we have a great team put together. So that concludes my update. So if there's any further questions.
I just have one. Over the years, there has been a lot of water diversification or water redirecting. How has this affected our water flow and the direction that it's flowing and the flooding within the areas? Has this been taken into consideration also?
That would be very likely a deeper water study. And I know that that was something that Bruderheim had brought up when we did the initial workshop for just the Bruderheim resilience plan. That was back in 2016. Something like that would be a study, would be more extensive and also more time intensive and more expensive. We have included a water study as part of the action plan, but based on resources, I'm not sure what exactly that will look like. There are some resources available. For example, Lamont, when they had their flooding, they have since done some study tied to water, and we may be able to pull from that. But in terms of water flows and diversions and whatnot, that's a deeper study. But absolutely, that would have an effect on water in our region. Yes.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could just add that, just a reminder to council that we were able to get 2 grants, federal and provincial.
You are cutting yourself off.
18 months. Yeah, my connection's not great. Sorry. I'm just going to say, remind council that this project was funded by federal and provincial grants, climate resiliency and adaptation with the focus.
Yeah. Okay, well, if there's no further questions, thank you so much for having me. I've been really excited to share this with council.
Yeah, thank you for taking this under your wing and making it your own and working so hard on it for our community, Jill. We very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mayor Huff.
And no other comments or questions for Jill, then the rest of your evening is yours unless you want to watch our council meeting.
Okay.
And
Patty, how do I, oh, there we go. Stop share.
That's
So-
great presentation, Bill, and the other booklet you put out, lots of information in there. Very good. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
so
Thanks for all the hard work you put into this program.
Yeah, I appreciate it. No, I really appreciate the fact that Bruderheim is progressive enough to look at this. So this has been a fantastic experience for me, and I think that there has been a lot of attention to it already. We've had lots of requests for information across Canada, and I think that it's just a really great opportunity for the town and for the region. So I'm very grateful to Council and to Patty for the opportunity.
thanks again, Jill.
Thank you. Have a great night.
We'd be looking
Thank
for
you.
a motion from council to accept Jill's presentation as information.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor George,
I make a motion that we accept Jill's presentation as information as presented.
okay. Do we have to note that Councillor Lee is not present at the moment?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Campbell, is Councillor
Oh,
Lee?
she's back, I think.
Okay, there she is.
They've
Can't hear her, but we see her. Any comments, questions, or concerns with? Did I get a motion? I can't remember if someone did someone make?
I
that
made
motion?
that motion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor George. Is any comments, questions, or concerns with the motion? Just once again, I'd like to say thanks to Jill for taking us under her wing and making it her own and doing all this work for our community and partnering with the other communities. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. So if there's no other comments or questions or concerns, and I'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to this motion? And the motion's carried. So the next up is 6.1. We need a motion to adopt the minutes from February 3rd regular council meeting. Councillor Judy.
I make a motion that we adopt the minutes of February 3rd, 2021 regular meeting of council.
Thank you. I think Councillor Lee is still not able to speak there with her mic because I saw her lips moving and no sound. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Hearing none, motion's carried, and we move on to number 7, council priorities. So information requests, we'll start with Councillor Len. I think Councillor Len is muted.
No, you're muted, Glenn.
Yeah, you're still muted, Councillor Len. There we go.
Last week I put a motion into sending a letter to the province, but I think I want to expand on it after talking to Sherry about it somewhat. The whole purpose of this, so I want to make it all clear to you. It's not a personal attack on the government at all. It's the fact that we were never contacted about this initially. We were left out and all the small communities are picking up the burden, which we can't afford to do. What I want to do is send a letter to the province, but at the same time, send that same letter to all the other communities under 5,000 who this affected and get their support of not paying this bill because, and I believe if we send this letter to them and asking for their support, you'd be really surprised about how many communities would support us. And because this government up until now, let's use the coal issue. If they don't get pressure pushback, they'll just keep going forward with it. I believe if we give enough pushback from the communities that they will rethink this, and because it is a detrimental to all the communities in the province, not just Bruderheim, and it was never much thought put into it. And I think that next week when or next meeting when the letter comes out, and the thoughts of this is to get support from other communities and saying that we're opposed to it. And you'd be very surprised about the amount of communities who will support us in this endeavor.
So is it, you're just changing your notice of motion? Because it was actually a notice of motion last meeting.
You know, it was supposed to be here, but Sherry didn't have an opportunity to get it out today, and she didn't have a clear direction. So now I'm giving a clear direction for the next meeting. The notice of motion is already there.
Okay, and I just want to make it clear so council understands that the policing costs came through from the AUMA. It wasn't the province's idea in the first place. It came through from the AUMA, from the larger communities, just so that everybody understands where that came from.
Yeah, and I understand that, but the smaller communities weren't strong enough to oppose it. And I think it's time we stood up and challenged this.
Okay, so we'll see that at the next council meeting then. Thank you, Councillor Len. Moving right along, Councillor George, do you have an information request?
Yes, we had discussed about the municipal, or APP, I'll call it now, the Alberta Provincial Police thing. I would just like to know if we could get some feedback from what their presentation was, and maybe administration could send it out to us in an email or something, just so we have a kind of an overview of what is being transpired. So we are up to date of what's happening with that.
I understand Sherry and Councillor Judy attended that event, and I don't know if it was recorded so that it can be reviewed. Is that right, Councillor
Recorded
Judy?
and going to be on the AUMA's website and the RMA website, because the two
Yeah.
put it together. So it'll be there for us, yes.
So maybe administration could email the link out to make it easier
Yeah,
for.
there's probably about another 50 and 100 questions that they got to do the research on, because Minister, what was his name, was there as well. They had ministers there as well, the one making the presentation. Where's my notes? Minister Casey Mandu was there. So all those questions that were asked of him will be put forward and put out onto the thing. So it might not be there for a day or two, because they got to get the answers to these questions that are there as well.
Thanks. Any other information requests, Councillor George?
No, thank you.
Councillor Wayne?
I just want a clarification on Councillor Lenz. You're keeping everything the same. You're just waiting for the notice of motion to come next meeting. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. That's all. Thanks.
Councillor Judy?
I've had a request emailed into me. Somebody wants some hemp seeds. Anybody, Patty or Sherry, you know where we can get just a few for the back garden? They want to try growing 5 or 6. So if you can email that to me, I'll forward it on. That's all.
Where they can find them?
Yeah. And I'm thinking just go out to the garden and pick them, but you know, I can't tell them that. So I don't know. Or give me the guy's contact name. I don't know, whatever. You just want some seeds to grow this spring. In town too, so it's only going to be 4 or 5, right? It's an in-town thing. Not our town.
Okay, that's it, Councillor Judy?
That's it, yeah.
Deputy Mayor Dan?
Nothing for me today. Thanks.
Okay. And Councillor Pat?
Nothing today.
Hey, we can hear from you. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
And so going in reverse order for program requests, Councillor Lee, do you have any program requests?
Nothing today, thanks.
Deputy Mayor Dan?
None at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Judy?
Nothing. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Wayne?
Nothing at this time.
Councillor George, any program requests?
Nothing at this time, but thanks for asking.
Okay. And Councillor Len, any program requests?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. And so that's number 7 completed. Now we're on to request for decisions, 8.1 bylaw 03-2021 Starlight Campground. Take it away, CAO Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration is requesting that council review this bylaw that establishes rules and regulations for the control and operation of the Starlight Campground and RV Park. The Town Council did first reading to Starlight Campground and RV Park 03-2021, a bylaw to establish rules and regulations for the control and operation of the Town of Bruderheim Starlight Campground and RV Park. From the time the Town of Bruderheim took over the operations of once was previously known as Victoria Trail Campground or
Ooh, a little bit tough on the connection
campground.
there.
Town of Bruderheim staff. Ugh. I'm gonna just turn off my video. I was in a call earlier today. It was not good. See if this helps.
Using too much bandwidth.
Yeah. The town of Bruderheim staff were responsible for the registration process of the campsite spaces, for collecting revenues, and for subsequent reimbursements, maintenance, and operations. This consumes a lot of staff time to oversee through the months of April and October. Administration reviewed bylaws 2016 campground bylaw for preparation of information that would be placed on the Camp Reservations Canada website for online booking of our campsite. Bylaw 03/2021 captures the changes that were needed to move this process forward. Strategic plan areas, opportunity to increase awareness of the Starlight Campground and RV park for industry partners requiring accommodations for the contractors and increased tourism opportunities. An opportunity to increase awareness, the use of Starlight Campground and RV park for tourism and events. A community is educated on responsibilities and limitations of council and administration. Other impacts, municipal government, 2000 Chapter M26, Section 8, powers under bylaws. This new registration process will allow those booking our campsites to go online directly, see what's available for sites, confirm their preferred location and dates, and pay for their invoice without having to contact the administration office to discuss this process. Previously, administration would confirm a location for a client, and when they arrived on site, someone else may have already taken the site, which led to many discussions and paperwork alterations to make the change. Additionally, through this new process, availability of sites for specific dates and times is available to the consumer. The town of Bruderheim administration will receive monthly payments accompanied with reporting from Camp Reservations Canada. We can also access the site daily to review the status of our campground sites. Those registering at the Starlight Campground and RV Park will be charged a $5 fee, which will remain with Camp Reservations Canada at the time of registration for accessing this online booking portal. Changes are highlighted on the new proposed bylaw for council review. Communication plan. The new online booking for the Starlight Campground and RV Park will be advertised on the Camp Reservations Canada website, in the Go East publication on the website, passages of the campground, and in the newsletter. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, CAO Pat. So we're looking for a motion to move the first reading of this bylaw. Councillor Wayne.
The town council give first reading to the Starlight Campground and RV Park Bylaw 03-2021, a bylaw to establish rules and regulations for the control and operations of the town of Bruderheim Starlight Campground and RV Park.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council with this motion? Councillor Pat and then Councillor George.
Okay, so this is going to be strictly online booking, right?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lee, yes, but they can also phone the office and we can do it from our end.
All right, so that's still an opportunity for individuals to utilize that rather than online?
Absolutely. The only thing that will be going away is self-registration.
Okay. Like you had the park. The second question is the decks. No decks at all? Is that what I'm seeing? No open decks?
Yeah, previously they were allowed to put in like a deck, and that was a lot of mess and hard for Public Works to do maintenance around, right?
Okay, so not yeah, so it's completely off the chart, whatever. Not anymore.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just clarifying. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor George.
Now you're saying that you have to go through the town or go through the website to get a booking. And what about the person that's traveling through here and we have nobody in town at the time, or nobody to serve these people that are traveling through our town, want to spend a night or two, and there's no campsite people there to look after them, or no method in place that they can register. Well, how are we going to handle that?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Campbell, will post the on-call number and Public Works staff will be able to help them.
So we're going to have to pull them out, rely on Public Works staff in the meantime.
It'll be a very rare occasion, Mr. Councillor Campbell. Our sites are booked for very long periods of time. And the problem we were having was people coming in when, say you've paid for a month, but you went away for the weekend to the lake and came back and your spot's gone, right? So this online reservation is a way to make sure people can look, see what's available. If they call Public Works people to reserve, we'll have that number clearly posted at the entrance. Public Works people will be able to access, see what spots are available, and make sure that those people are put in the appropriate. So
we're still going to have manual implementation of this campground, right? In some form.
on the rare occasion, again, most of our sites are booked by, it's more of an RV park for work in the industrial area.
No, this method of billing or looking after it is supposed to be able to reduce manpower. How much manpower was it that we were putting into that to looking after the campground, as far as looking after fees and that sort of.
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Campbell, I can tell you that I assisted a lot last year. As you know, with COVID, we had some layoffs in the office, and I can tell you that I would hazard to guess most weeks was about 6 to 12 hours a week just on the administration of the campground. And that's just from an administrative perspective. And then there was the public staff that had to check the drop box every day and ensure that there was no cash in there as well.
But wouldn't that be part of your general rounds of looking after that campground? Your daily rounds of looking after that campground, making sure that things are safe and secure, at least 1 or 2 rounds a day?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, through Council, absolutely. That's you're just asking me what it is that we're going to be eliminating, and those are steps that we'll be eliminating with this process. We're still going to be making multiple trips around the campground. We're still going to be calls at the office for availability. We're still going to be advertising our facilities. This is just eliminating an administrative procedure. And many of our customers have corporate credit cards and they want to do it from online. We're getting calls right now from Manitoba of workers looking in the area, and we're missing opportunities if they can't book like this online. People are using online. I'm actually an RVer. I think Mayor Carl is as well. And all of our camping is done by booking online. It's just a new practice. It's costing the town nothing. And if it doesn't work, we have a track that says that we're committed and we can go back to business as usual.
Thank you for that information.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions for administration? Councillor Judy and then Councillor Wayne.
2 I have. 1, congratulations, Patty, getting into the 21st century. I like that. Because yeah, as you know, all the people out there camping always book online. My kids are looking ahead for the next month or next year, I should say, booking everything online so that they can plan. And when you don't have it there, they're not going to phone nobody. They do it when it's time convenient for them, which is usually 10, 11 o'clock at night. Anyhow, I've read the campsite bylaw and I have a question for your 7.7.1, the noise. It's from 10 p.m. to 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. Is that the same as the town bylaw? Because I think it's more 7 a.m., is it not? Or we AM too?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Schuler, that is correct, 7 a.m. But that is the norm in a campground, that people respect that because the some property, that you're not going to be, starting your diesel and letting it run for half an hour outside somebody's trailer. And it's just the norm for campgrounds that it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking the type of people that we normally get there, like they're going to be going to work at 6:37, right? So is that going to be the thing where
that I've been here, yeah, I've never had a noise complaint out there. So, but that is the norm on the website. So we're just trying to adhere to not confusing people with different rules at different campsites.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's not the norm for our bylaw, it's the norm for campsites. Okay, thank you.
Did you have another question, Councillor Judy? No?
No, that was everything. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Wayne and Councillor George.
Just a question. Is there still going to be a regular follow-up from whether it be Public Works or yourself or whoever, just to make sure that people are there that are supposed to be there? If they're booking online, how do we know or how do we follow up with that?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, great question. So we'll have a daily sheet that we print out for Public Works, which we've always done. Every morning, Public Works to make sure everybody there is paid. So that's already a practice in place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Councillor George?
What method is in place, say somebody books a campsite and all of a sudden decides he doesn't want it and he not that I'm saying we're got an overflow or anything like that, but what have we got in place that says, hey, you are responsible for your commitment?
Mr. Mayor, that's in the schedule, I believe, cancellation policy. So that was like Schedule A, about 7. I'm just trying to remember where we landed on. I think it was 72 hours somewhere in here.
There's cancellation time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see it.
I'm sorry, Councillor Campbell, I just can't put my finger on it right now.
The number 24 says we require 48 hours cancellation in order
it
to
does.
receive refunds.
Yeah, we were going between 24 and 48 and 72. So that's, again, we're trying to follow other campgrounds, and that was 48 or 72 was the norm.
Any other questions, Councillor George?
Nope.
Is there any other questions from council? I have a question, CAO Pat. So when you're registering for campgrounds from the province, they always restrict you to not being able to book anything until like the end of March or whatever time frame. Are we going to have a restriction like that, or can they book the year as soon as it rolls into January, or how will that work?
So, Mr. Mayor, it's a great question. We as a town are the administrator and we can set the rules. And right now we take bookings 365 days a year is the rule we've set. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. And to have the option for those that might show up unexpected and then have someone to be able to call that, and that would be just on the off chance on back shifts that they'd be phoning. So this is great. And if it helps get more bookings and get us online, when would this go online?
Mr. Mayor, target date is March 1st. We're already receiving calls for the campground. So
great. Thank you. And so they're all marked clearly so that no one is parking in Fred or Joe's spot or anything like that.
Mr. Mayor, that is correct. And we also are making a map that will be online. So, and there's going to be pictures where you can decide, and the different, some sites only have water and electric and some are full service, and then it'll have the tent. So as we get through the summer, we'll get better pictures, and yeah, I'm excited about it. So
yeah, that's awesome. So there'll be a link through our website to the website that we're going to be on for the bookings. Is that how that's going to work?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. It'll be on our website. So when people go to look for the campground, they'll see the option to call the office during working hours or to go to the website themselves. And all of the people that were there last year, because we were researching this, we got their emails. So we'll be emailing them all the link that were our customers last year. So
great. Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council?
I just want to say great. I just want to say a great job. This is like sounds like a year of change, I think, for programs, and all for the positive. So great job. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Hearing no more comments, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So that's 8.1. Now we move on to 8.2, business license bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration is requesting that council review this bylaw that establishes the licensing and control of any business operating within the town of Bruderheim. Town council gives reading to 012021, the business license bylaw for the town of Bruderheim. Bylaw 52/2016, the business license bylaw, was an extensive rewrite of the previous bylaw that was approved in 2013. Within bylaw 52-2016, the definitions within the land use were incorporated throughout the document. The land use bylaw and the fees and charges bylaw have been amended, and the amendments were not brought forward in the current business license bylaw. Bylaw 01/2021 referenced the land use bylaw, and the fees and charges bylaw no longer includes all the land use bylaw definitions. Strategic area opportunity to increase awareness of services that are available within our community and surrounding areas. An opportunity to increase awareness of local business and encourage the Shop Local program. A community that is educated on the responsibilities and limitation of our council and administration. Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M26, Section 8, Powers under Bylaws. The new bylaw focuses on the licensing and control requirements for a business operating within town of Bruderheim. Upon third and final reading of bylaw 01/2021, the business license bylaw will be placed on the town of Bruderheim website and shared with those businesses that have a business license within the town of Bruderheim. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Looking for a motion from council, the business license bylaw.
I can bring
Councillor
that
Pat.
forward.
Thank you.
I move that town council give first reading to bylaw 01-2021, the business license bylaw for the town of Bruderheim.
Thank you, Councillor Pat. Any comments, questions, or concerns with this bylaw? Councillor Pat.
So with this one, it's a lot fewer pages than the other ones, because I guess that the potential business person has already referenced the land use bylaw and is well aware.
So that's correct, Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lee. In order to get a business license, you have to have a development permit. So then we would have referenced you to the land use bylaw.
So they do some legwork.
Well, we provide that, right? So it was repetitive. Having the definitions in both bylaws was repetitive. And when you have multiple places for definitions and references, the greater the one each thing, right?
Okay, yeah, definitely a shorter document.
Thank you for that question. Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council with that motion? Just one question for myself. In the old bylaw, it had, like Councillor Lee mentioned, a lot of definitions, and 2.2.5 in the old one talked about the campground. We're not going to be hamstrung by that in the new bylaw, are we?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So if there's no other comments, questions, or concerns from council, I'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion for the first reading of this bylaw? And the motion's carried. Thank you very much. And we can move on to 8.3, reserve transfer for the school playground.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration is requesting that council approve the transfer of $25,000 from Reserve 10 internal financing to Reserve 6 major recreation fund for the purpose of reserves for council's $100,000 commitment to the Bruderheim School Playground. The current balance of Reserve 10, which is the internal financing, is $199,778.84. And the recreation facility funding is the balance is $0. Council approved a 4-year plan to provide $100,000 to the Bruderheim School Playground Initiative. Starting in 2020, $25,000 would be committed from the operating fund. As you know, we had originally had put that in the capital fund. The auditor asked us that to the fund because we don't own the playground. And so administration has set up the reserve, the major recreation facility funding. So it's clear that we have committed that funding, and we will put $25,000 per year from the operating over into that fund. Assigning this funding from the operations revenue into a designated reserve will ensure better financial accountability for grant reporting and grant and council's direction. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion from council for this reserve transfer. Councillor Pat.
I move that town council approve the reserve transfer of $25,000 from R10, which internal financing, which has a current balance of $199,778.84 to R6 major recreation facility funding, which has a balance of $0 for the purpose of assigning funding for $100,000 commitment to the Bruderheim School Playground.
Thank you for that, Councillor Lee. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council with that motion? Actually, I do have one question for CAO Pat. So we were committed to do this. For some reason, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we already had some money last year in this. And so what happens if the playground gets built 2 years from now and we've only got a partial, not the full 100,000? I'm a little fuzzy on that part.
So Mr. Mayor, yeah, this is for 2020, our commitment. As you know, we had a adjusted the capital budget, take it out of the budget. We didn't get a motion to move it into the reserve. And so if they were able to get all the funding in place for 2021, we would just use that internal borrowing, the 50,000, that's what that account's set up for. And then the next 2022 and 2023, we would put the money back into, so it's like borrowing from ourselves, right?
Okay. Yeah. So is there another 20,000 going in this year, or that will be next year?
So
Because I thought we put 20,000 away last year already.
Yeah. So this funding, Mr. Mayor, is from 2020.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
It's a capital project change that we never got a motion to actually move it into a reserve.
Okay. Thank you.
So this year it will be in the operating budget, and council won't have to make a motion, and we'll have it going to the right place.
Great. So Councillor Wayne and then Councillor Len.
So at the end of 2021, there'll be $50,000 in there. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lacko, thank you. Yes, for clarity, that's correct.
Okay. Sorry, I was just, and do you know where the school is at with fundraising, where kind of dollar value they're at, and what their time frame is for the playground?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lee might know, but I know we're still waiting to hear from the CFIP grant.
Yes.
And
March.
Yeah, we should hear by the end of March whether they were
Yes.
successful. We weren't successful in the fall, and we reapplied. And Councillor Lee, I think were they at 18,000 or something extra as well?
I can double check in that the numbers were there at the last council meeting, so I can put them out for the rest of the councillors.
Okay. And if they get the CFAP grant, that'll cover the remainder of the cost or the bulk of it. Is that correct?
That would be the
Yeah,
bulk.
so Mr. Mayor, through
Yeah,
Councillor Lacko, our goal is 225,000. So 100 from CFIP, 100 from the town of Bruderheim, and 25,000 from the Friends of Bruderheim committee.
Perfect.
Righty.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, it'd just be nice to know where they're at if it's possible. Just kind of curious.
Okay, yeah, I'll find out, Wayne, and get it out to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
And the CFEP was 100,000 then.
Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. Well, certainly going to be pulling for that one. Okay.
Yes.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, call for a vote then. Anyone opposed to that motion? And the motion's carried. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, administration. So council committee reports, looking for a motion to accept the council committee reports as information. Councillor George?
I'll make that motion. I make a motion that we accept the council committee reports as information.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Council on the council committee reports? Okay, hearing none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion to approve the council committee reports? Hearing none, then motion's carried. Looking for a motion to approve the mayor report as information. Thank you, Councillor Wayne.
The council received the mayor report as information.
Thank you for that. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the mayor report? I just wanted to bring some information to council about the last water commission meeting. Was this past week in Chipman. One of the things that was discussed that's going to be happening going forward is the auditor for the Northeast Commission and the auditor for the John S. Patuque Water Commission are going to be meeting and looking through costs and doing a discovery for information, looking back to see what was the practices and costs on certain things, especially in relation to capital work and how that was moved forward. And so that'll be interesting to see how that moves forward. And just for our council's information, our province, when the water line was put forward, the province paid EPCOR for the capacity for every municipality. And in 1980-81, it was 4,333 gallons per minute for the town of Bruderheim. That was what the capacity was that was paid for by the province. So thanks to the province at that time for having the forethought to make that happen for us. Any other comments, questions, or concerns on the mayor report? Okay, haven't heard none. Call for a vote then. All those are anyone opposed, sorry, to the mayor report? And the motion's carried. Looking for a motion on the CAO report. Councillor Dan, or sorry, Deputy Mayor Dan.
No worries. I move that council receive the chief administrative officer report as information.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the CAO report? Councillor Wayne?
With some sporting stuff opening up, is it possible, or when do you feel we could get 2 nets on the outdoor rink? Or is that still a ways away?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Lecco, in the CAO call today, there's still no hockey allowed in outdoor rinks.
Really? Okay. And I just want to thank Dennis and the team for pushing forward with all the switchovers of the water meters. So it should be done, it says by March-ish, so that's awesome. That'll streamline the whole process. So great job pushing forward. And will the arena be ready for ball hockey next week?
Might be a little slippery still in there, eh?
Got rubber boots.
Oh, awesome. No, great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns on the CAO report? I noticed that the town of Lamont is going ahead with making an outdoor rink, a temporary one for the rest of the season. It'll be interesting to see how many folks make use of that. So if there's no other comments, questions, or concerns, anyone opposed to the CAO report motion? I haven't heard none. Then the motion is carried. So there's no closed session. Correspondence, the only thing that I had, and I believe everyone else probably got a copy of the board highlights from the Elk Island Public Schools. The only thing that I wanted to note for folks to think about, and if you run into our trustee, maybe you could ask her this question. It says on page 2 that EIPS currently has 18 schools operating above the average cost for Elk Island Public Schools, and the average cost per student for Elk Island Public Schools is $6,925, which is a decrease from the previous year because of the pandemic and the cancellation of in-school classes. So I'm just wondering, hopefully our school is not one of those ones in the 18 schools that's above the cost, but I imagine not. But, I was just kind of curious. Something that I noticed on there, that it's good to fly under the radar sometimes on things like that. So that's the only thing I had for correspondence. And I noticed, like I watched the Town of Lamont meeting the other day, and I didn't fall asleep. And they actually do a motion to accept their correspondence and information items. Should we be doing the same thing at our council meetings?
Mr. Mayor, I'll have to take that back to Legend Legal and check on that.
Okay, thank you. And they also do a motion before a presentation. It's a little different. Maybe if you're talking to CAO from Lamont, it'd be interesting to get your take. Either side maybe could learn something there. I'm not sure. And so that's it for correspondence. I'd be looking for the famous motion from the man on the top right there, Councillor Wayne.
I make a motion to go home or go to the couch, whichever's closer.
And go watch a hockey game, 7 minutes to game time. Thank you, everyone. And the motion's accepted. And anyone opposed to the motion? The motion's carried. And have a great evening, everyone. Done.
Take care, everybody.